Hello and welcome everyone. You are here to join us today for a workshop on estate planning as part of the Housing Expo. We welcome you. We're very excited to have two guest presenters. Today we have Kendra Bowen, with Housing Economic Rights Advocates, HERA. We also have Assessor Joaquin Torres from the San Francisco Assessor's Office to present and also be able to answer questions for you today. My name is Nick Tolchinsky. I am with Balance. We are a nonprofit counseling agency here in San Francisco and are excited to be part of this presentation and the Housing Expo in general. So if you need to show captions, we have some instructions here, whether you are joining us on your computer or your phone. We posted the instructions here. So if you go to the navigation bar at the bottom and find show captions, you can click on there and select the language that you prefer to use. You may also have to push the more button if you're not seeing the show captions option at the bottom there of the navigation bar. So hopefully you don't have any technical issues. If you do, please post your technical issues to chat, and we'll have Cherie address that from Homeownership SF. And we will have an opportunity to ask questions today. So go ahead and after the presentation or during the presentation, if you prefer, post your questions under chat for each presenter, and they'll have a few minutes to address those questions for you. So we do want to welcome our two guest speakers. First, we'll have Joaquin Torres from the Assessor's Office present. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Torres tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much to Homeownership SF for helping bring us all together. And we're very much looking forward to a weekend later on in terms of making sure that people have the information they need around homeownership, preparing for it, and other questions you might have. I will also be at that Homeowners Resource Fair in the Bayview, so we can meet in person as well. But tonight we're primarily talking about estate planning, which is a valuable tool for passing on your assets to your loved ones and the preparations you need to take and consider in order to do so. I'm very pleased to co-present this presentation with Kendra Bowen, as Nick introduced, senior attorney at HERA, Housing and Economic Rights Advocates. We've joined forces these past 2 years in our efforts to raise awareness and the importance of estate planning and its role in protecting your hard-earned assets. So it's a pleasure to collaborate with nonprofits like HERA and Homeownership SF, share this valuable education and the resources to ensure that your wishes, both financially and medically, are honored, and that those assets are protected that you spend so much time working so hard for in the event that something happens. Estate planning is extraordinarily important for individual families, for communities that want to see each other generation to generation present in the neighborhoods that you live in. And as individuals, empowering each one of us to be able to choose who we want making our decisions around medical and financial choices should something happen. We know that the financial burden, the difficult conversations about death or emergencies, and what comes next, and the lack of accessible resources to help you understand why planning now is both possible and important, and the difference that it can make, often prevent us from protecting ourselves and our families. So tonight, what our main intention is to demystify this topic for you, connect you with our estate planning program partner, HERA, and make sure that the information you need to have these important conversations with yourselves and your loved ones, that you have that, and also to make it easier for you to create a plan that works specifically for you. But before we do that, I'm just going to dive in a little bit into this slide here. The essential functions of our office at the Assessor Recorder. You close your eyes and you imagine the highest point in the city that you can view, all the topography of San Francisco, all of the buildings, the land underneath them, residential, office, other commercial buildings, hotels, hospitals, schools. Our responsibility in the Office of the Assessor Recorder is to assess the value of all that property and the land on which it stands. And then to grant exemptions as appropriate for hospitals and schools and other exempt worthy properties. And then also the only time that we are collecting tax is around the transfer tax, when any piece of property changes hands. And we're very proud of the work that we do there to ensure that legal entities are paying their fair share of taxes when it comes to those transactions. We've been able to collect approximately $75 million in transfer tax. And we know that in difficult times, such as now, that collecting those dollars really does make a difference. It's not something to take for granted, even in a multi-billion-dollar budget that we have here in San Francisco. $345 billion worth of enrolled property value, which equates to an estimated $4 billion in property tax revenue. And then finally, we record documents, deeds, reconveyances, that fantastic moment that happens when a loan is finally paid off and the property is then yours, outright, and of course, marriage certificates. Next slide, please. So when you're looking at the overall impact, as I just mentioned, of that $4 billion, about $2.6 billion goes directly to the city's general fund, and that pays for so many of the vital infrastructure services that we need here in the city and county. And the remainder of those dollars go to support public education, transportation, and other public services. But we're talking about our parks, our emergency responders, affordable housing, dealing with mental health issues, homelessness, affordable housing development, economic opportunities for our small businesses, and so much more. That $2.6 billion that you see here on this slide represents approximately 1/3 of the city's general fund. And you can see here at the bottom what some of the other sources are. And as something to note is that property tax is the most stable and secure source of funding for our city's general fund. So it's important that we do well so the city can do well, that we are efficient so the city can make the decisions and choices it needs to around financial investment for those services that all of us rely on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Great. At the same time that we're doing this core work, making sure that all of that value is on our roll, of buildings like the ones you see behind me. We also want to make sure that we're accessible to you. That's why we do webinars like this one tonight, to make sure that we're reaching as many people as possible, putting a face to the name of the office, so you know it's a place that you can come, that you can rely on, and that the staff that you would be interfacing with are also getting this direction from me and my executive leadership team to make sure that we are accessible to you and the public. We come to you in the neighborhoods with an Assessor in the Neighborhood program popping up at libraries, neighborhood meetings, community fairs. So you can ask us questions either in real time, or we can set up a time when you can come on in or give you a name of someone you can connect with online, on the phone, or in person at City Hall. We present property tax education. So we talk about topics that impact your finances. Those that are directly related to our work, like Proposition 19, a measure that was passed back in November of 2020 and became active in around the first quarter of the following year in 2021. That impacts the manner in which you're able to carry a factor base your value from one property to another, and also how inheritance laws work in relationship to property tax assessed values. And limitations that the law placed on those opportunities. We talk about how new construction impacts your property taxes, what your options are if you disagree with your assessed value, business personal property considerations for those that own a business or a short-term rental, and assessment basics for first-time homeowners. Just making sure you have that information that you need. Nick and I were just talking before this presentation around making sure people understand what supplementals are when they first buy a home, so that you aren't surprised by financial obligations that are yours, and making sure that you're aware of that. Grounded in our knowledge as well is family wealth program that we want to share with you. Our work aims to support your financial well-being and resiliency holistically, both within the bounds of property assessment, but also more than that. The legacy of housing segregation has impacted families even here in San Francisco, not just in a Jim Crow South. From the well-documented impacts of redlining to our ongoing work to help document the prevalence of restrictive covenants via an assembly bill that was passed recently, Assembly Bill 1466, new laws like Proposition 19, and how they impact how families are able to build wealth. We have our annual and now once again in-person Family Wealth Series coming up. That's going to be happening later on in August. So please reach out to us. You can learn more about that. I know my staff will place those dates and times in the chat section here as well for you to access that. And we're going to talk about investing basics, how to avoid financial scams, what to watch out for in terms of bias in the private appraisal market, are some of the items that we covered in previous years. And we're going to continue those themes so that we can make sure that you have those tools that you need to be aware of to grow your wealth, manage your finances, buy a home. Alongside, again, those one-on-one in-person connections with our staff will be there as well to help answer your specific questions on your property. And finally, what we're talking about today more fully, our estate planning program. You can see here, more than 70% of Black Americans don't have a will in place. And we just want to reinforce the importance of an estate plan for everyone. But most specifically, we've been focusing this program in the southeast part of the city, where home ownership also meets communities of color, because we know that that's where the need exists, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the resiliency in the diversity of our communities. For households and communities to preserve those hard-earned assets, like I talked about at the beginning, a home, small business, as a foundation for building the intergenerational wealth that I believe, and so many of you do as well, that everyone should have an opportunity to realize. Next slide, please. All right. So what Harold will be talking about today are the specifics of what are going to be offered through this estate planning program: one-on-one legal counseling, financial workshops, complete estate plan documents that include a will, living trust, a healthcare directive, and the power of attorney. We began this program back in 2021 in partnership with HERA, again, with the belief that everyone across all diverse communities and income levels should be able to build intergenerational wealth and ensure that their hard-earned assets, wishes, and intentions are honored. So I want to make sure that you're just aware of both the ethos behind this program, but also who you get to be in contact with when you have greater questions. This program is not funded with taxpayer dollars beyond our time, but rather through philanthropic donations that have been made to make this program a reality, providing 200 free or low-cost complete estate plans to San Franciscans, with a particular focus on the areas that I mentioned before. Next slide, please. We are looking at serving diverse multilingual households. And again, as I mentioned, those areas to the southeast, what neighborhoods are those? Excelsior, the Bayview, Visitation Valley, Ocean View, Ingleside Heights, and Western Addition as well. Typically, an estate plan will cost you between $3,000 to $3,500. We're using the California State Department of Housing and Community Development's income limits that they publish annually to qualify participants. So when I say that we're providing it free or low cost, depending on income level, a single person making less than $104,400 per year, you're receiving these services for free. If that person makes between $105,000 and $147,000, then you're going to be able to secure the value of these legal services for $400. So again, a pretty tremendous savings in the thousands of dollars. And it's because we wanted you to take this seriously and take advantage of the opportunity here in San Francisco. But whether you are qualifying for this limited area, a specific program, are a renter, a homeowner, a small business owner, family, or individual, the city has so many community-based organizations that can connect you with additional resources, low-cost services to help you secure the future that you want to see. And that includes HERA, which offers services at a sliding scale cost. Next slide, please. So, should you wish to sign up, you can please contact our co-presenter that you'll hear from in just a few moments, Kendra Bowen. Bowen, my apologies, and at Housing Economic Rights Advocates. And Kendra is going to provide her information at the end, but always you can reach out to our office at assessor@sfgov.org. Or if you want to reach out to us, you can always just call 311 and ask to be connected to the Office of the Assessor Recorder. If you don't reach a person right away, we will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours max. Or you can always just come on into City Hall, the first floor. We're the first door on your right once you go through security. And those are our hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we'd be glad to welcome you here as well and talk through any of those issues. Before we hand it over to Kendra, I just want to ask, are there any additional questions anyone has for me at this time before I sign off and Kendra Bowen begins her part of the presentation? All right.
You have one in the chat.
We're focused on residents, those who have homes within the city and county of San Francisco. But that is for this very specific program. But should you want to reach out to HERA right after this and have conversations about what other services may be available to you, the same type of product, but a different mannering of accessing them, please do. (94107). I am waiting for staff to do a cross section on that one, and they'll answer that in the chat momentarily. Any more questions? Thank you, Rick. And David, we'll have that answer for you in just one moment. And you can see that there in the chat section, the answer is yes. Thank you, Tina. Any further questions before Kendra dives into a very substantive presentation that'll really dive into the specifics of the necessity, the value, and the importance of estate planning, the confidentiality. And also, I just want to say it's incredible how lucky we are to have HERA as a partner in doing this work. Kendra has joined me in so many different community meetings across the city to make sure that we're making this program accessible and putting some proof behind the concept that there is need for this in community and people are taking advantage of it, which is fantastic. Any other questions before I sign off? All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And now I will hand it over to Kendra Bowen.
Thank you so
Kendra.
much. Oh, thank you, Assessor Torres. Very, very helpful
Kendra,
information.
You want me to start off on this page?
Sure, perfect, Sheree. Thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad to have you here this evening and excited to speak with you about estate planning. As Assessor Torres said, my name is Kendra Bowen, and I'm one of the estate planning attorneys with HERA, the Housing and Economic Rights Advocates. And I'll start off by describing a little bit about what HERA does. It's basically a law firm, but we are a nonprofit, and we help people with all kinds of financial and housing issues. Next slide, please. So we help folks with foreclosure prevention, with loan modification challenges, with student auto and medical debt problems. We also help with, as Assessor Torres says, with estate planning now. We create trusts and wills and healthcare directives and powers of attorneys for folks. We also help with homeless and tenants' rights eviction problems as well. So we really do a lot to deal with housing. We do work to help intergenerational wealth, as Assessor Torres stated. We want to help folks make sure that the family home, if possible, is passed down to the next generation, and help maintain low property taxes, etc. So these are the things that HERA does. I specifically do estate planning, which helps achieve the goal of intergenerational wealth. Next slide, please. All right, so now I'm going to dive into the estate planning portion. There are a couple misconceptions of estate planning, and these can be barriers as to why people do not take care of their estate planning while they're feeling good before the time that they might need these documents. So one misconception is people perhaps who are going to rent for the rest of their lives and they really don't have a lot in terms of assets, they might feel like they don't need estate planning. Well, that is false, because a large portion of estate planning deals with what happens if I'm incapacitated, who's going to advocate for me in a medical setting, who is going to finish paying my bills and prepare my income tax return once again if I'm out of it, if I am in an auto accident, if I have dementia, etc. Next slide, please. And perfect. Another misconception about estate planning is that people understand that California does have a mechanism to pass on wealth if people don't decide for themselves what's appropriate for their estate. So let's say I have a client who has a life partner and 2 kids, and for whatever their reason is, they want to make sure when they pass away, their home goes to their life partner. This is possible, but you have to make sure to indicate this in notarized witnessed estate planning documents, for instance, a trust or a will. So while California does have a default called intestate succession, we much rather have you folks decide what is appropriate for your circle and your family. And you do that by creating proper estate planning documents. Next slide, please. Another myth is people might have a will and they feel like that is all that's needed to make sure to avoid probate one day, to keep costs down and make sure to pass on the family home. So if I have a client who has a will and a townhome, they may feel that they don't have to create any additional estate planning documents in order to have a seamless transition of their townhouse one day. Well, that is false, because in California, probate, an expensive, lengthy process that we have here in California and many other states to pass down wealth, is triggered if you own any asset that is worth over $184,500. Well, all of us live in the Bay Area. We know that there are no homes, condos, townhomes that you can own under that threshold amount of $184,500. Therefore, if you only have a will and you have a townhome, your family, your circle, your loved ones will need to go through the probate process when you pass away. But we have many tools to prevent that from happening. We're going to cover those in just a moment. So for estate planning, we are talking about 2 different groups of documents, 2 types of issues. We have documents that kick in if you become incapacitated, and those documents make sure that you have someone to advocate with respect to your medical issues and your financial matters. We also have a group of documents that handle passing on wealth when we pass away. That would be a will and a trust. Those documents also allow you to nominate guardians of any minor children that you have. So there's 2 different groups of documents that cover estate planning, and most of us need some of these documents. Next slide, please. Perfect. All right, so we're going to start off with the group of estate planning that does not deal with passing on wealth when we pass away, but rather helps us manage our affairs if we are incapacitated, either temporarily or permanently. So the 2 different groups of the 2 documents in this area of estate planning are called a durable power of attorney for financial purposes and an advanced healthcare directive. We create these documents now while we're feeling good, while we're with it, before the time we need them, because by the time we need them, it's too late to create them. It does seem odd, but if we are young and feeling good over the age of 18, we need both of these documents. we are planning for incapacity down the road. A durable power of attorney for financial purposes will allow you to nominate someone who you think is appropriate to, if you are incapacitated, to pay your bills, to finish filing your income taxes, to deal with a government entity, to deal with the Social Security office. You choose someone to take over for you with respect to your financial matters, so that when you hopefully improve, your life is as good as possible, so that you can once again take over your finances. In an advanced healthcare directive, if doctors cannot effectively communicate with you, they need to make sure that medical treatment is approved by someone else, right? So it's important to create an advanced healthcare directive now, so that if you are in an accident, if you ever have dementia, you have someone in place to advocate for you with respect to those medical issues. You can become as granular and as specific in those documents as you wish. For instance, with an advanced healthcare directive, you can indicate, and these are difficult things to think about, I realize, but you can indicate that if you are in a coma and things are very dire, you don't want certain things done to you. Or you can indicate that you do want everything possible done for you. You can indicate that if you ever have dementia, you prefer to stay in your home as opposed to going to a senior living facility. With respect to the power of attorney, you can grant broad powers to your agent, and your agent is just the person that you are choosing for this potential role of responsibility. It's not some formal agent. It doesn't have to be an attorney. It's just someone that you trust. So in your durable power of attorney for financial purposes, you can give your agent broad powers or rather narrow powers. An attorney can craft these documents to suit your circle and what you want to achieve. Next slide. For, frankly, both the power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive, we want, you are the principal and you're going to nominate an agent, the person that you trust to do things for you if one day you are not able to handle your finances your own, or make choices with respect to your medical care on your own. So you're going to choose an agent, someone that you trust to do those things for you. We highly encourage you to choose a backup agent too. In choosing these individuals to take over these parts of your life potentially one day, it's very important to assess the strengths and weaknesses of these folks. When I have clients who have children, let's say 3 children, they sometimes feel a need to put the kids down in order of age. That is not necessary. You really want to choose the person who has the skill set necessary to fill this potential role of responsibility. So for instance, if you have a child that always pays their bills on time, completes their taxes on time, but doesn't do well in a hospital setting, can't look at an IV without becoming queasy, that person may be a good choice for your durable power of attorney for financial purposes. That probably is not going to be a good choice for your medical directive. So it's very important to very honestly assess the strengths and weaknesses of the people that you are considering for these roles. Next slide. All right. So I just touched upon those 2 different documents that are important while we're alive, get incapacitated. So create a healthcare directive now and a power of attorney now to handle incapacity later. I will mention that while most of these documents should be created by an attorney, an advanced healthcare directive is available typically with your medical practitioner. If you're with Kaiser, Sutter, John Muir, you can ask your medical team, you can go onto your portal and request a blank advanced healthcare directive. You can complete that and sign it either in front of a notary or in front of 2 disinterested witnesses, turn that back into that medical provider, and that is absolutely fine. I will say some of those medical directives gives you lots of flexibility for writing in what is appropriate for you and what you would not want to have done to you. So I think if you can get a hold of one of those healthcare directives from your providers and turn them in, please do so. If your opinion about what you want for yourself and the people that you trust to advocate for you changes in the future, you just request a new advanced healthcare directive, complete it, and turn the new one in, and the new healthcare directive will take the place of the prior one. Now we're going to look at the part of estate planning that deals with passing on wealth when we pass away one day. So as I mentioned earlier, the probate threshold in California is $184,500. Any of us who own a home in California, if we were to pass away and haven't taken advantage of several tools that I'll discuss momentarily, we are forcing our estate and our family to go through the probate process that we have here in California. And probate is a process where a court oversees the distribution of an estate. They might validate a will if there is a will. It forces a personal representative to come to court. That personal representative frequently needs to hire an attorney to help them through all of the formalities that are used with probate. That number of $184,500 gross is important because, for instance, let's say we have a condo worth, I'm picking a round number, $500,000, $500,000, and we have a loan against it of $400,000. You may think that a person in that situation would not need to go through the probate process when they pass away because the equity in that condo is only $100,000. However, the probate court does not consider the loan against that condo, but rather just looks at the gross value of the assets that you have. The asset in this example would be worth $500,000. So if the person who owned a $500,000 condo subject to a loan of $400,000 was to pass away, there would be a probate. The good news is there are several tools that we have at our disposal to avoid probate. Here they are. All right, so we're going to just touch upon each of these briefly. On the top row, on the far left, we have creating a revocable trust. A trust is structure. The structure is you. By creating a trust and putting your home into it, you are not giving up any powers with respect to what you can do with your assets, to what you can do with your property. You're just going to hold title a little bit differently. If you were to sell a home in a trust, you would sell on behalf of your trust, and you would purchase your next home in the name of the trust. In a trust, you are not accountable to the beneficiaries, for instance, children who will eventually receive your home when you pass away. Everything is yours until you pass away. The next bubble on the upper row, the second one over from the far left, is called a transfer on death deed. For homeowners, and again, homeowners with a mortgage, all of us have a mortgage, can execute a 2 to 3 page transfer on death deed. And if they were to pass away, if there are living beneficiaries on that deed, that would avoid probate. The second bubble from the right on the upper row is called a pay on death account or a multiple party account. And this is a tool to avoid probate by which you place a beneficiary on your bank account. So if you have a bank account and you want to perhaps make your 2 children the beneficiary of that account, you can make an appointment with the banker at your bank, indicate that you want to put beneficiaries down on that asset, and you'll put their names down. If you were to pass away, that account would go to those individuals without probate. And then the bubble on the far right, upper row, is you can have assets that do not exceed $184,500, and that will avoid probate. Let's look at the tools on the bottom row. The bubble on the far left and the middle bubble indicate that you can own property with someone else as joint tenants or with a spouse as community property right of survivorship. And these 2 options will avoid probate, sort of. So let's say you own a home with your spouse as community property right of survivorship. As to the first death, that will avoid probate. So I have a couple, spouse 1 passes away. Spouse 2 does not need to, at that point, go through probate as long as their deed reflects that they own their home as community property with right of survivorship. However, the last spouse standing needs to actively do something to avoid probate with respect to that home. But they need to use one of the tools on the upper row. They need to create a transfer on death deed and put a couple beneficiaries down, or alternatively, create a revocable trust and place the home in that revocable trust. And then looking back on the bottom row here, let's look at the bubble on the far right. With retirement accounts and basically life insurance, you can place beneficiaries on those assets by contacting those companies, obtaining a beneficiary designation form, putting the people that you would want to one day inherit the remaining amount in those accounts, and that will avoid probate with respect to those assets. We have many tools at our disposal to avoid probate. It's not necessary that you know exactly which tool is appropriate for you in your situation. If you do contact our office or any estate planning office, the attorneys will help you decide what would be appropriate in order to meet your goals, considering what you have in your family situation. Next slide, please. For those that anticipate they'll be renting and do not expect that their assets will exceed $184,500, a will can be appropriate. And a will is a shorter document than a trust. A will can indicate where you would want your the contents of your apartment to go upon your passing. In a will, you would also indicate who would be an appropriate guardian for any minor children that you have or dependent adults. So a will is appropriate as long as you own assets that are under that amount. If you're a homeowner, a will not be enough. A will also does not kick in and become effective until you pass away. So if you anticipate that you're going to rent and not need a trust, not only will you need a will, but you'll need the other two documents that I spoke of earlier in this presentation, which would be a durable power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive, because remember, those are the two documents that are effective if you become incapacitated. Next slide, please. Let's look a little bit more at the revocable trust. It's typically appropriate for homeowners. And keep in mind that if you create a revocable trust, everything in the trust is for you until the time that you pass away. You're the beneficiary, you're in control of the assets, everything is for you. It's revocable, which means that you can change the terms of your trust as long as you're with it at any point. So at this current time, you might have 3 kids and you may state in your trust when you pass away, you want everything to go to 2 of your kids for whatever reason. Well, in 5 years, if you have a change, if you change your position there, you can amend your trust and state you actually want everything to go to all 3 of your kids. So it is absolutely flexible and amendable. You put new assets into it as you go through life. So it's meant to grow with a family as you go through life and acquire assets and wealth. A revocable trust can be called a trust agreement or a declaration of trust. It really doesn't matter. The main thing is that it's revocable and amendable by you. In a trust, there are several provisions in there that help protect you as the grantor and creator of the trust. So no beneficiary in your trust is entitled to any assets until you pass away one day, and that will be abundantly clear in a trust. You don't need to keep track of anything with respect to your trust or any accounts that are in your trust. So the trust is meant to make your life very easy and help your estate pass on to your loved ones upon your passing. Next slide. For those of you who decide to continue with thinking about estate planning and actively do something to help yourselves and to achieve your estate planning goals, if you contact an estate planning attorney, they will typically have a lengthy phone call with you. They may have you come into the office. If you are married, it's a really good idea to ensure that you and your spouse are privy to the conversation, because if you're married, you'll have marital assets, and both of you really need to be on the same page with respect to the distribution of your assets. You will provide some personal information to your attorney, but you do not have to provide your Social Security number nor any other people's Social Security numbers. While you will provide some financial information to the attorney, you certainly don't need to provide your account numbers to the attorney. So you do have privacy there. The attorney will, at some point after getting to know you, send you a workbook where you'll have time to make choices about the people in your circle that would be appropriate for certain roles of potential responsibility down the road. In the workbook, you'll indicate when you pass away where you want everything to go. At whatever point you're finished with that workbook, you'll send it back to the attorney and they will review it and prepare draft estate planning documents for you. You will look at those documents, review them, discuss them with your attorney, mention any changes that you need. At some point when you're very comfortable with your documents, you will sign everything with a notary and witnesses, and the day that you sign them, they are effective. If you have created a trust, the attorney will speak with you about putting assets into your trust. And I'm not going to get too granular about that, but it's fairly straightforward. The attorney will typically send you back the original documents, and we highly encourage you to pull out those original documents in that estate planning binder and review your decisions periodically, perhaps at the end of the year, after the new year, to make sure that you still like your decisions. If you don't, all of these documents can be changed only by you. And so then we would encourage you to get back in touch with the estate planning attorney and let them know that you want to change some of this. Next slide. Okay, so here is our contact information. Assessor Torres reviewed the financials, and we have a wonderful program available for San Francisco residents and homeowners right now. Feel free to contact our office. You can either call and leave a message if no one answers. Our admin team is wonderful and we'll get back in touch with you. Or you can email us and let them know that you are interested in estate planning. And one of our admin members will get back in touch with you and have you speak with one of our attorneys and see if you want to continue with the process. I hope this was informative. I would encourage all of you to, at a minimum, complete your healthcare directive with your medical provider and get that on file. And hopefully also take care of the other parts of estate planning, documents that are important while you're alive, get incapacitated, which would be the durable power of attorney for financial purposes and advanced healthcare directive. And then also complete documents that are important to pass on wealth at your passing, which would be a trust, a transfer and death deed, or a will for those who feel like they're going to remain under that threshold amount. All right, so I can open it up to questions if anyone has some questions about estate planning. And you can place them in the chat. Good question. We do serve all counties in California. We have attorneys throughout the state. So we do definitely handle Contra Costa County. Of course, someone living there would not qualify for the wonderful free program that we have in San Francisco, but rather would default to our HERA sliding scale fee chart. And so based on the gross income that is reflected on last year's tax return, our admin team could let you know what the fee would be, but certainly contact our office and one of our attorneys can help you with that. Any other questions? Let's see here. Okay, well, I guess that is it. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I will pass it along to Nick from Balance.
Great. All right. Thank you, Kendra. Very, very useful, helpful information. I appreciate your time and thank you for sticking around for questions as well. All right, so it's just a little bit more information here on the estate planning with the Mayor of Housing. Just like open market properties, and if you're BMR owner or using down payment assistance for your property, the city does encourage you to utilize the estate planning tools. Transferring title revocable trust is allowed if the trust meets the requirements of the city. And you must be in compliance with the rules of whatever program you're using for title transfer to be approved. And for the criteria, we did put it in an email there for sfhousinginfo@sfgov.org if you need more information regarding estate planning, more specifically to your situation as a homeowner. Next slide, please. So will MOH need to approve your trust? Yes. You'll be writing a letter regarding a title change to the Mayor of Housing. So that's very important. The documents that will be involved is declaration of trust, abstract of trust or trust certificate, and also certification of trust authority and power. So the city will go over all those details with you once you submit the letter with the title change. Okay. Draft grant deed showing proposed vesting as well. So all information regarding the transfer and the state information you will be providing to request approval. Okay. Again, here's the email for additional information regarding tile transfer. You want to send email to sfhousinginfo@sfgov.org. All right. Well, we gave the opportunity to ask questions to the presenters. You have their contact information as well. We can post that to Homeownership SF can post that as well. Let's go to the next slide, if you will. So we encourage you all to come to the expo this Saturday. Very helpful information, a lot of resources, a lot of professionals, counselors, representatives of the community will be there to discuss rental and home ownership. So if you can come, that would be great. I also posted in chat the location. We would also like for you to complete a survey regarding the presentation tonight. So we submitted a link there that hopefully you can cut and paste into your browser and leave some feedback, which is really important for Homeownership SF. If you have any questions, concerns, we also put the email and phone number for Homeownership SF on your screen and their website as well. Really good website there. Homeownership SF is the nonprofit housing agency in San Francisco that's basically the liaison between the city and the counseling agencies. And they're involved in a lot of different opportunities for housing in San Francisco. So their website has a lot of great information there. All right. Well, we also posted the link there under chat. Thank you for doing that, Cherie. So you have it, you can click on the link there or copy and paste, whatever you like. But we really do want you to take the time to leave some feedback. Again, huge thank you to Homeownership SF, Cherie for hosting tonight, and to our presenters for offering this great information. We do encourage you to come on Saturday. A lot of great information there. And with that, we'd like to go ahead and wish you a good night, a good rest of the weekend. And we'll see you on Saturday. Take care,
I think it's
everyone.
one more question in the chat.
Okay, let's go take a look. Yeah, that's a question that I'm not sure if Kendra can address or not. If Kendra's still with us, I'm not sure. Does transfer title to revocable trust trigger a property tax increase? Yeah, so you would want to contact her. Maybe you can put that slide back, Cherie, for Kendra's contact information. Go back, there we go. So that's the information for Hera, her agency. I know she had to take off, so give them contact them, give them a call, send an email with any questions, not only that question there, and they'll address it for you. All right, again, huge thank you to all you participants for coming to join, and again, to Homeownership for hosting. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you on Saturday.